Pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from our last pension board meeting.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and the minutes have been approved. Opportunity for the public to address the board?
Pat, you got something?
No?
I'm just monitoring my pension.
I've got good news for you.
Okay, seeing that there is no one, new business, we have three motions. The first motion is 25-5020, the CS McKee fourth quarter performance report. And to speak on that is Mark Gensheimer, the president of CS McKee. Mark?
Good morning, everybody. So first of all, let me introduce my friend and colleague, Shane Nikolic. Some of you have gotten to know him, seen him at some conferences and things. We've been working together forever. He doesn't look that old, but he's been with us 15 years. And actually, I'm taking Shane around to all of my key clients because, believe it or not, I'm getting a fair amount of pressure from my wife to retire after. So she retired last year, and so she's really given me a lot of grief. I've been on the road for 44 years, and she reminds me of that all the time. So anyway, so I'm thinking about getting there. I'm not exactly sure when or what, but I thought I really wanted to bring Shane to get to know all, and he knows most of these people anyways, but I really wanted to introduce him to you so you get to know him, because then when I fade away, and I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm going to remain an owner of, at the company and probably remain on the board and all that kind of stuff. But I'm going to be 66, and it's kind of getting to that point, with 8 grandkids. And so anyways, that's why I brought Shane along. So I'm just going to make a few, in fact, a couple more things on Shane. So he joined McKee when he was 7. And was actually worked with us for a couple of years as an intern, and then we grabbed him and forced him to come work for us, I guess full-time 13 years ago. Yeah. And so Shane knew more about the investment business by the time he was 25 than I ever will. Got his CFA when he was in his early 20s, which is a certified financial analyst. The only people that get those degrees are portfolio managers, unless you're somebody who's driven as Shane is. So while he looks really young, he also has 5 kids. Under the age of 7. Yeah. So he's got his wife is a saint, and
Tell you, last night was great. We got a great meal, got a good night's sleep. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, that's right. So anyways, I'll just give you an overview of the portfolio, and I did bring an update because we're a month into the year. But the portfolio had another great year last year. It was up over 12%. All the volatility. The fund itself was up $18 million. Your allocation, in the upper right-hand corner is, on close to target, about 60%, 50% domestic equity, about 10%, 11% international, and the rest fixed income. And I brought an update. This is as of last Friday. The numbers on this sheet of paper, but I circled and underlined the most important ones if you're looking in the left-hand column. And I was actually surprised with all the volatility in the first month of the year, but the portfolio's up, almost 2.4% just for the month of January, and another $5 million into the fund. So, again, it's up over $220 million. And, with the way we manage money as conservatively as we do, to be able to remain ahead of the benchmark is it's fortunate. While we do own, a fair amount of the big 7 tech companies, we don't own all of them, and there's some that we don't think we'll ever own just because of how overvalued we think they are. But with the other stocks we own in the portfolio, we're able to, keep up with the market. So again, with as much volatility as there is going on in the world today, from a political perspective and everything that's going on with tariffs. And I thought this was the perfect time to have somebody like Shane tell us exactly what's going to happen in the markets over the next month and quarter and year. So I'll have him get into some more detail, and then I'll touch base on some of the things that we're looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we sit here today and we look back on the fourth quarter.
There you go.
Is that better? There we go. So as we sit here today and we look back on the fourth quarter, I really think you can characterize it as a November to remember and a December to forget. And this was almost a little surprising because typically December is one of the best months on record for stocks. And after we had the S&P 500 return almost 5.7% in November, expectations were sky high. But I think, unfortunately, we didn't get that Santa rally that we're used to getting. And it's arguable that the very strong post-election bump that we received ended up pulling forward some of the December gains. But nonetheless, as you look at it, it was still a great quarter for stocks. The S&P 500 index was up almost 2.5%. Believe it or not, that is now the 8th time in the last 9 quarters where stocks have been positive. So we've had a terrific run. And even to take it one step further, this is the first time since 1998 where we had back-to-back calendar years where the S&P 500 has returned 20% or more. Now, when you look back on a year like last year, one of the big reasons why the economy performed as well as what it did is because we had very healthy economic growth here in the United States. You look, the U.S. economy expanded by 2.5% last year. And one of the big reasons, the primary reason for that has been because of our spending. And you think about it, we as consumers, we account for almost 70% of the economic growth here in the United States. And you think about all the expenses that we have on a day-to-day basis. Almost every single thing in our life has gone up significantly over the last 4 or 5 years. But it tells you how resilient we are as Americans that we continue to spend and continue moving the economy along. Now, one of the other things that was definitely a big tailwind for stocks and for the portfolio in 2024, it was the Federal Reserve's decision to finally begin to ease monetary policy. If you look, they cut rates in 3 of the final 4 months of the year. And what that did was that resulted in a 1% reduction in the federal funds rate. Now, all eyes have now turned to this year. And the question is, will we see any more cuts in 2025? And I think a lot of that will depend on what happens with inflation. I think what we're seeing right now, inflation is a little bit more sticky than what the Federal Reserve would like. But once they have some confidence that it's going to continue to move to the Fed's 2% target, look for another 1 to possibly 2 rate cuts maybe in the second half of the year. Just a quick note on the S&P 500. As Mark said, it was a great year last year. To give you an idea, the S&P 500 set 57 record highs last year. That is the 5th most that we've seen in a calendar year in history. And as he was saying with it, when you take a look underneath the hood, it wasn't like it was this big broad rally across the board. What it was, you look at that Mag 7 like he talked about, that accounted for 53% of the S&P 500's returns. And to take that one step further, when you look at the top 10 stocks in the S&P 500, they now account for 40% of the market value. So think about that. The other 493 stocks only make up 60% of the market value. So for an active manager like CS McKee, when you start to see some of the volatility in the markets with the DeepSeek here recently and trying to disrupt some of the AI, what we're seeing right now, that creates opportunities for us. And so with us being more defensively positioned, those are the types of environments where we typically perform pretty well. One of the things on the CS McKee report that you'll see is we're a little overweight right now, small cap equities, just above the target. One of the reasons for that, there's a lot of talks right now about tariffs. And typically, those are a lot of the larger multinational companies that have more of an impact on it. But some of the small cap companies, with them being primarily most of their revenue coming from here in the United States, they're more insulated from some of the tariffs and currency changes, those types of things. So our team back in the fourth quarter decided to increase that allocation to go to slightly overweight. That's something we'll continue to keep an eye on with the new administration now in place. You look at fixed income, that's an area here going forward with rates rising as quickly as what they did. There's a lot of pain, especially in 2022, but it's really an opportunity for the portfolio here going forward. Our expectation for a year like this year is we could get as a 4 to 6% return out of fixed income with where yields are. And honestly with you, that is excellent because that takes a lot of pressure off the stock portion of the portfolio for us to hit the actuarial rate of assumption. And again, one of our main goals when we're building these portfolios out at CS McKee is how can we build a portfolio that's going to allow you to consistently meet or exceed that actuarial rate of assumption while we minimize risk, minimize return. So fixed income levels where they're at, it's very good for the portfolio. You know, one of the things, obviously with the rates higher, it's been very difficult on people that are borrowing. But on the flip side, for people that are saving or for plans like this, you're seeing some of the strongest fixed income returns. We're on track for that we've seen in the last couple of decades. So with that being said, I can pause there. I'm happy to take any questions that you might have, or I can turn it back over to Mark to wrap things up.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you know, there's always noise out of Washington, and we're going to have more. I mean, it is what it is.
No, really.
Just a little, right?
So it will cause volatility. But the bottom line is earnings of these companies. And as long as the earnings remain strong, stocks will continue to do well. But there'll be a lot more volatility than we've seen in a while. And you just have to continue to be diversified and just continue to buy really good companies that have really good management and really good earnings and over time. So we're relatively still positive on the markets. As Shane was saying, we do expect, not as soon as Washington would like, but we expect to see some rate cuts later in the year, which will be good for we think good for the economy and good for, you know, most companies. And, you know, so there's going to be threats from, you know, the Chinese with AI. They'll always be there. We've got historically high valuations at this point, which always concern us a little bit. But, you know, for the most part, you know, we're expecting things to continue to move along. You know, there's the jobless rate's pretty good. Interest rates are, you know, coming down. A little concerned about housing, but you know, inflation's come way down. We're in a lot better position today than we were last year. So we'll kind of see what the market gives us.
Mark, can you speak to the fact also how our portfolio is enhanced or not enhanced by the fact that these commissioners are contributing the full amount of the
It's
pension
huge.
fund? Yes.
It's
I
just
know in the
it's
past
so
our county has been
important.
spotty on that.
You know, we do manage money for, you know, a lot of counties around, and those where we manage the whole portfolio. If we're all in this together, you know, your actuary can only do so much where your money manager can only do. And when you continue to add to that arc, because as you know, decades ago, they went for a long time without adding anything to it. And you'll continue to see that funding go up. So it's the greatest thing you can do in our opinion, it's the first thing that should be budgeted because it's just such an important, and I really commend you for doing that.
Yeah, thank you.
Because everybody doesn't do that.
No.
Oh, we know.
So, yeah, it's and your funding will just continue to go up.
That's great. Good news. Any questions for Mark? Comments?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the fourth quarter performance report. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second? Is it on the question? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion has been approved. Motion 25-5021, this is a motion to approve a request for proposal for the audit of Lackawanna County Employees Retirement Fund for the year end December 31st, 2024. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll talk. On the question, we'll do it, Gary.
Sure. On the question?
On the commissioners and members of the board, normally Joe Alou does our audit. However, he's contacted us this year. He cannot do it because of the, what is the peer review process. He's a small firm, can't handle it. We're going to have to put it for an RFP to get a larger firm is going to have to come in to do it. So we'll see who bids on it. And then we'll have to have a special meeting to approve that, evidently, so.
Okay.
So probably in a month or so, we're going to have a special meeting just for that purpose alone. Okay. Yeah, because we won't bring Mark back at that point, because it won't be 3 months, really, it won't be a quarterly, so.
Okay. Any other questions?
Originally, Joe Lou was on the agenda,
Yes.
but then he decided that.
He can't do it. Yeah, he wasn't able to do it, so we had to pull it, so.
Okay.
So we're just authorizing right now to put it out for RFP. We'll get proposals then, and we'll see who bids, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Anyone else on the question? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion has been approved. Motion 25-5022, this is a motion to approve a securities fraud portfolio monitoring agreement with Grant and Eisenhofer for the Lackawanna County Employee Retirement Fund. Here to speak on that is Attorney Mark Weinberg from Grant and Eisenhofer. Mark? Yeah, you could just pull a chair up, actually, if you want.
We'll share with
I'll make this very quick for you all. Thank you all very much for having me here. I'm Mark Weinberg with Grant and Eisenhofer. We are a law firm based out of Wilmington, Delaware, with another large office in New York. I am the San Diego office. I'm an Altoona native. I went to Penn State undergrad and lived in Philadelphia for 30 years. Have been with this firm for almost 20 years before moving to San Diego about 10 years ago. Now, my understanding is that you all have several firms that do the portfolio monitoring for you, so I won't go into too much detail about what it is and what securities fraud litigation is unless people have questions. That could help move things along if you want to ask me questions. But Grant and Eisenhofer has been in existence for about 23 years, and we are one of the top firms in the nation. We've recovered over $16 billion for investors in just the last 10 years. And we were one of the very first firms. In fact, we were the first firm to start with the portfolio monitoring. And you may say to yourself, well, why do we need another firm doing this for us? And first of all, it doesn't cost anything. There is no cost or obligation to have our firm do the monitoring service for you. And so there is, quite frankly, no reason not to. But it's also good for a couple of reasons to have another set of eyes looking at the portfolio for instances of fraud. Every firm out there looks at different types of cases, looks at different companies, and sees things in different ways. I have a number of clients that have multiple firms that do this for them, and in fact, this just came up last week. One of my clients called me and said, hey, you know, this firm called me about XYZ company and fraud in a case. How come I didn't hear from you? And I said, I talked to our team, and we had looked at that particular case, and there are allegations of securities fraud, and we don't believe that there is any merit to that. And so I advised that particular client that we didn't think it's a meritorious case, and we don't think you should get involved in a leadership role. Now, they may agree or disagree with that, but it's just, like I say, another set of eyes, another opinion. Everybody looks at things differently. Now, one of the things that sets Grant and Eisenhofer apart from our competitors is that we are a firm of trial attorneys. And if you look on page 2 of what I provided to you, you'll see all of our trial experience. And one of our senior partners, he has actually tried 3 securities fraud class action cases to verdict, which is virtually unheard of in this world. And Don will tell you, as a lawyer, most cases don't go to trial in any aspect of the law. Now, I started my career as a prosecutor in Philly, and so everything went to trial almost, but this is a different world in this civil area. So we work up every single case as if it is going to go to trial, which then increases the potential for better settlement if a case does in fact settle, which just happened at the end of last year. We had a case against General Electric that had been going on for 4 years or almost 5 years, and the defendants were dead set against settling it. They were pushing it, and we had a trial date set. And finally, they caved because they knew we were serious. We had done mock juries on that. We had experts all set up, and it resulted in a phenomenal result. It was a $428 million settlement, I believe it was. So an excellent recovery for shareholders of that particular matter. So that is one reason. And then another important reason, I provided you a sample of our portfolio monitoring report. You can see the tab. It's the 3rd tab. And what is important about that is if you look at page 15, what the county will what the fund will get in this report is a list of every case that was filed during that quarter. So if you look on page 15, you'll see a highlighted list. So in this example, this particular sample client had shares and trades and was exposed to each one of the companies that was accused of fraud on pages 15 and the top of 16. Then at the bottom of page 16, all the way through the end, are all of the cases that were filed in that quarter that the company did, or that client did not have exposure to. Just to give a sense of everything that's out there. So people always say to me, you know, oh, securities fraud, does that happen a lot? Yeah, it happens all the time. And so then the other really important thing is on page 18, it is the pending class action settlements. Now, this is critical because it's important for the fund to be recovering all of the settlement money which is entitled to. And this page, just like the previous part of the report, is also highlighted to show companies where securities fraud cases were settled, where the fund had exposure and should be collecting money. Now, the custodial bank should be filing those claim forms. I don't know, do you guys do that at McKee, or? Oh, you guys do?
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of our clients will send it to the custodian or to someone like McKee, and I'm sure these guys would appreciate it, and they'd be able to say, okay, do a double check, did we get all of these?
And sometimes it's sent it to both, just so we're double checking.
Great, fantastic, thank you, yeah.
Yeah.
It's very helpful, because if you don't file the claim form, you don't get your money, and that's money left on the table. Now, it's not always going to be a lot of money, but, you know, 5,000 here, 10,000 there. A case like General Electric, it could be up in the six-figure range plus. So it just makes sense to have that.
And now, if you're one of the lead plaintiffs,
Yes.
you get more, is that correct?
That is actually not correct. If you are a lead plaintiff in a case, you guide the case. So the lead plaintiffs in the GE case were instrumental in making sure that we kept pushing for more. The company came back with X number, and our clients were like, well, you know, we talked about this prior to that mediation, and you said the value was YZ, so no, you know, we want you to keep going back and get more, and it works. So that's what the role of a lead plaintiff can have, and that's extremely helpful. A lot of clients sit back and let us do all of the work. Some get involved intensively. There's a lot of more in the middle ground, like to go to mediations or participate, like to be involved in the pleadings. It all depends on your appetite for being involved, but monitoring the cases is critical, and if the county ever does get into a case, this report will have an update every quarter, plus we'll also be in touch as things happen. One of the areas that we are extremely active in is Delaware Chancery Court, which, because most companies are incorporated for the moment in Delaware, the Chancery Court is where most corporate disputes occur. And now, as you all know, you have a fiduciary obligation to your beneficiaries. Well, public companies, the board of directors has a fiduciary obligation to shareholders to maximize share price, share value, and the value of the company. And you may be surprised to know that oftentimes they breach their fiduciary obligation to shareholders. They're lining their own pockets. They're involved in insider dealings. There's a company, MSG, Madison Square Gardens Networks, which is, they actually are the ones that own the Sphere in Vegas, and the owner of that company, he's an interesting character. We had a case against them. He basically was running the company like it was own private piggy bank. Cost overruns. He owns the Knicks and also the Islanders, or not the Islanders, Rangers. Thank you. Yeah. He's a real jerk. He banned Charles Oakley from the Garden because he got into a little beef with him. So in any event, he was running the company in a similar way and breaching the duty to shareholders, and we ended up with an incredible settlement in that case, thanks in large part to our client. Now, what we will do oftentimes, and this is not a guarantee, but we will often ask the court to give an award for a participation award is what we'll call it, for the lead plaintiff in a case. And we were able to get, I believe it was $5,000 for the fund that led that particular case. And it's the court looks on that because it's important for pension funds to be involved in these cases. You all are sophisticated investors, you have investment managers, you have an actuary, you have counsel, you're all educated people, you're on this pension board for your experience, for what you know and what you do. And You know, as I heard, you're fully funding the pension fund, so you obviously understand what it means to be guardians of this money. And so, you know, we're not going to come to you often to seek a leadership role, but, you know, maybe once a year or every once in a while, and you can always say no. And I was talking to Don before the meeting. Our monitoring agreement is completely separate from any case. So you will never wake up in the morning and see in the Tribune that the Lackawanna County Pension Fund is the lead plaintiff in a case, unless you already knew about it. Everything will be done by a fully separate retainer. And so I hope I didn't go too fast, and I hope I covered everything. If anybody has any questions.
I actually have a question.
Please.
So there's no cost,
Correct.
right? And so then only if we went to litigation and retained you, then there would be a fee, but we're actually not obligated to retain you.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, and it's all on a contingent basis. So if you do decide to be a lead in a case and you retain us, it's a contingent fee basis. We handle all the costs, and if the case is unsuccessful, many of these cases are not successful. It's a very difficult burden of proof on these cases. All of the costs and expenses are ours. We eat them. You'll never get a bill from us.
So I have a question. Who are the companies or the firms currently that we have to do this work? Does anybody know that?
Well, Commissioner Reggie helped me out. We pulled some information on that. They will, if we retain them, they will either be the third or the fourth. The reason I say that is in 2014, which was 11 years ago, we entered into a monitoring agreement with Carmichael's and Tequilas, who we haven't heard from in years, Reggie, right? I mean, so I don't even know if they are still monitoring or not. Then in 2018, we signed an agreement with the Rosen Law Firm. And I don't think we've heard from them in a long time either. Now, in 2023, we did enter into an agreement with Robbins Geller Rudman, and they're relatively new, so I'm sure they are monitoring at this point. The other two, we're not sure if they're still monitoring or not. We have never heard from them. We've never had a claim with them. So you're either number 2, number 3, or maybe number 4. But yeah. But again,
Yes, at least number 2.
again, there's no cost to the county. They monitor. If they find something, they come back to us and say, "Hey, we found this. Do you want to become a plaintiff?" And at that point, we would then enter into a fee agreement with them for a percentage, recovery. basis.
Do we know, just out of curiosity, how many times that has happened, like in the last 10 or so years?
We've never been approached by anybody. So,
Okay.
yeah, we've never been a party in a claim. Yes. I'm sorry,
We
Reggie.
are using chemical, whatever the guy's name.
Yes,
Chemicals.
yes.
They did send us a report.
Oh, did they? Okay.
In 23.
In 23, okay,
They're
so,
the only report since I've been here in 2008.
yeah,
that
we've ever received.
Our office has ever gotten.
Yeah, okay, okay.
What I'll tell you is we work with public funds across the country, and a lot of larger funds like yourself, many times we'll see them have as many as 4 or 5 of these securities litigation firms.
Because they all have their own area of expertise and
Yeah.
focus.
Yeah. And again, it's no cost to the board. It's not going to cost us anything to do this. And again, if they find something, then we can determine if we want to engage in the litigation as a lead plaintiff or not, and that would be our choice at that point.
And it's a situation where your company may find fraud, and the other companies that we deal with may not find that.
They may not agree with us that it is a fraud. They may say that's kind of shaky. Like I said, this area of the law is a very difficult area to prove. A lot of securities fraud cases turn on very small accounting principles and minutia of the law, and so they may say, yeah, we don't think that passes the smell test, or a lot of our competitors, we're very conservative, so we don't often have cases that we think are good that our competitors think are not good. It's usually vice versa.
Any other questions?
Thanks, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's good to see everyone.
Okay, I will, if there's no further comment, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion?
Is there a second? On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion to approve the agreement with Grant and Eisenhofer has been approved.
Thank you all very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Opportunity for the public to address the board? Yes.
There it is.
Reggie, go ahead.
Any of the cases that you have now, we've had any,
Here.
oh, I'm sorry. any of the cases that you have open now, if we had any dealings with them in the past, do you go retroactive at that point, or you just go forward with what we have now?
We'll get 5 years of history from your custodian, so our first report to you should have anything that's in existence now, and that goes back as far as 5 years. Like I said, I mentioned that GE case went on for years, so these cases, the wheels of justice turn slowly, folks. So-
Thank you.
And you can always call, and if these guys have any questions ever, I talk with folks like CS McKee and the custodian all the time, like, you know, do you know anything about this, that case, our client is asking about this. Oh, and the other area I didn't mention was international, which is huge these days, and so you'll find out about those cases.
Very good. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Members, other business, does anybody have anything? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.